So I was trying to figure out what program I was going to do, and I was looking at things like welcome back to my channel. Here I am coming to you from somewhere a little bit different. I'm right outside of my gym, Diablo CrossFit, and that's because I just finished up doing a podcast with the owner of our gym and the programmer for our gym. So it was with Craig Howard, who is the owner of Diablo CrossFit, and Jamie Lee, who is the programmer for PRs All Day and the owner of that programming. They have a podcast. It's the PRs All Day podcast. I will put a little clip of it here. And now I live here in Northern California. So I have bounced around a lot. And because of that, I don't have a lot of people I know in these areas. Like, I knew no one when I moved to any of these places. I had no friends, no family, and finding the right CrossFit gym is how I've built community and I've made friends. And it's also the people that I'm most connected to after leaving those places. The people I'm still friends with a lot of the time are people from my CrossFit gyms. And there will be the link to the whole thing below, and you can check that out if you want to check out their podcast. They have some awesome conversations about CrossFit affiliates and sort of what's going on in the CrossFit space. So it's definitely a good one to watch if you're looking for another podcast. But I also want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what programming I'm going to be doing this year, because I hinted that I was trying to figure out what I want to do because I need a little bit more than class. So I was looking, because I'm trying to get better at strength. I need to focus on building my strength. That's what became most apparent. It was always apparent, but even more apparent in the open and quarterfinals. Quarterfinals, I couldn't even start the first workout because it was just too heavy for me. So I was trying to figure out what program I was going to do, and I was looking at things like Mayhem's programming, and I kind of had settled on doing Training Think Tank. They were doing this strength bias that you could follow. They had a couple of different tracks, but there was one that was specifically for strength. All of them focused on strength this time of the year because that's what most people are focusing on. If your season is over, it's time to build strength. But they had one specific track that was very, very strength focused and removed a lot of the conditioning so that you could build that strength. And that's what I honestly thought I was going to go with and had already purchased it because I was that convinced that that was what I was going to do. But then I spent some time talking to the RX Plus coach here, the person that leads that programming, about what I could be doing, what I should be doing, and what we sort of decided, or what I ended up deciding, but what he was sort of suggesting and giving me an idea of what he thought would help me become more successful this year is partially being in class, because I love the class environment and it's really something that I value. So I ended up deciding that I wanted to do programming with a coach here, Jackson Miller, because I wanted to make sure that I was still getting that class environment in. And I know some of the comments I got on my videos when I was trying to decide what programming I was going to do were saying things like, oh, well, I tried programming before, but I always just default to wanting to get back into class. And that's sort of how I feel too. I always want to go back to class when I do these programs. So I decided it made most sense for me to take on programming with a coach who was going to program in our classes here at Diablo CrossFit for me. And because he is a coach here at Diablo CrossFit, he's very familiar with that programming and can do that. That's not something that a lot of remote coaches can do, but he's not actually remote, he's right here. So it seemed like the smartest move. Is it the cheapest move? No. And those programs that I was talking about before, like Mayhem and Training Think Tank, would have been cheaper, but I decided I really want to see if I can get stronger and give it a go at getting stronger and seeing some real improvements. And I think to do that, I am going to have to focus and figure out the best training strategy so that I can have that extra strength work and get stronger, but also have the community involvement, which is why I thought this was my best opportunity. So doing some individualized programming, but also doing some of the gym's programming. So today we're going to do some of what I have as an individual, and it is very, very strength involved and a lot. So we're going to get going. Getting started a little bit late here because I was doing that podcast, but it was a lot of fun. Again, linked in the description if you want to check it out. jumping right into the warm-up here, and we are squatting. So I am getting my legs prepped and my glutes to be able to squat in the best way possible. And this is my favorite warm-up for squatting. I love banded stuff, banded squats, banded walking. And then after that was an abbreviated warm-up, by the way, jumping into the back squats. And this is to build up to a heavy set of 5 for the day. And it is coupled, supersetted with some dumbbell bench press. And dumbbell bench press is something that I kind of find fun. We've been doing a little bit more of them lately. We did some floor presses last week, which is similar in concept. Just the bench allows you to get a little bit deeper because your elbows can go back farther. And I like these. I like to do stuff with dumbbells sometimes because it really forces you to have balance between both arms. Here is the mid-session chit-chat with a friend because that's an important part of every workout community, like to chat. And then after the chat's over, we head back to doing some squatting. Put the belt on for these. Now, I don't like to use a belt when it's too light. I don't like to rely on the belt. But once I'm over 80-ish%, I allow myself to use the belt. Sometimes I don't then. Sometimes I still feel pretty good. But if I am over 80%, that's when I'm like, you can take the belt out and have a little bit of core assistance if you need it to perform better, Back to those bench presses with the dumbbells, went up a little bit in weight here. These are 40s, so not super heavy, but heavy enough that it's a little bit of a challenge, especially because I'm doing these now, but bench press is not a thing that we do a ton of in CrossFit, although, good to work it in and good to do it some more. This is my last set of back squats, I believe. There were more sets that I'm showing you here, but decided to give you just a taste of it. So again, this is my heaviest set of 5. For me, heavy for me, my heavy is different than other people's heavy. But this is, I believe, 160, which I was happy with for the day. I believe my 1 rep, last time I checked it, was like 180. So for me, pretty high percentage, but we're going to work on getting even stronger. I got to get that 200-pound back squat. I know that's not super heavy for a lot of people, but for me, it's good. Thumbs up because that was good. Now on to my last set of some dumbbell bench press. Again, just working on getting both arms equally strong and requiring them both to work. And one can't overcompensate for the other because you're holding it with one arm. So I like these. I like working on that kind of stuff. Okay, moving on to the second part of the workout. We've got, what do we have here? Handstand walk. It says set up 10 in cements, which I found out is increments, and accumulate as man lengths in 10 minutes. And I think it's many lengths because a man length, that would vary, right? Depending on type of man, height of man, what part of the man. We're gonna go with as many. And I'm just doing a small length. It's like 5 feet, but that's because that's about what I can do, hopefully, on a good day. We're gonna find out. 10 minutes. I actually really liked this handstand work. And I struggle with handstands. I'm still, learning how to walk. I'm just like a little baby deer over here. But amateur tip, not a pro tip because I'm not a pro, but amateur tip here, set up a distance that you can actually do. Because I've practiced handstand walking throughout my CrossFit experience. And when I just do a random length, it doesn't always go well because I don't push myself a little bit farther to get a couple inches. Where here, when I can see the cone and know, if you just try to stabilize a little bit longer or fall over like that, that was one of my falls. But if you just try to stabilize a little bit longer, you can sometimes get a little bit farther than you thought. And having the cone there gave me something to aim for. So if you're trying to learn something like this, sometimes having a goal like that really helps. And then there was this. I am very easily scared. I just get really focused and then get scared when somebody says something. And that was an ugly one, but finished it up. Look at all my lengths. I did this many 5-foot lengths. A lot of 5-foot lengths. And here's a look at some accessory stuff and some things I'd never really done before, which I think is pretty cool because it keeps the accessory work interesting. Sometimes accessory work can be the kind of stuff that you just don't want to do at the end of your session or near the end of your session. But if they keep it fun with like new stuff like these rows and this, which was a ring push fly, it was called, like it just keeps it interesting and exciting and makes you want to do that accessory work. So I really appreciate my coach putting this stuff in so that I can get better and be challenged. And finally, here we are to the little bit of conditioning, I guess you could call it, that I did today. And this was an interesting workout. You saw me running down because I had my clock way far away, which I ended up picking up because that was a mistake. But what we are doing is a 10-minute max sled distance. But there's a catch, and you can obviously see that that's not all we're doing right now. So it is a max sled push with the weight on the sled is 70 pounds plus 2 35 kettlebells. And that is because you are using those 35-pound kettlebells every minute on the minute for 10 kettlebell push presses. So this was the first round, and the first round wasn't that bad. Those push presses didn't feel too heavy. I'm like, okay, we can move through this. Grabbed my phone because I realized I needed that for me to see the time because it was be too far away when I'm all the way down the other end to actually see it from that distance. So pushing that sled, getting ready to pick up these kettlebells to do 10 more. So at this point, it wasn't feeling too bad, although this is so different from doing a barbell push press because you have to stabilize. And with the kettlebells, I think they're sometimes a little bit more difficult to stabilize than a dumbbell because all the weight is to one side. It's not like a dumbbell where it's centered in the middle of your hand. It's a little bit awkward, but probably better for building strength and stability, but awkward. So now that I had to put them down at one point during this, it changes the workout because all of a sudden I've eaten up into a lot of my minute and I do not have a lot of time to push this sled, and that will get worse. So the first round I'm like, I can push press this, no problem. And as the fatigue set in, it really, really changes because you don't really have much time to recover. And when you are recovering, you are pushing that sled. So I'm taking a second before I pick them up here. Now we got them back up, and now we are pushing them again. And I'm not sure if it was quite yet or the next round, but I feel like my lockout starts to get a little bit soft because I'm just like getting fatigued from all of these pushes. So when I read this workout, I thought maybe it's a sled push workout. Like that's going to be a lot of sled pushing. Nope. It was not a lot of sled pushing because it was primarily, push pressing. That's really what this workout came down to. It was a ton of push press. And at this point, I'm still maintaining the 10. Eventually, I'm going to have to, or I guess I make a decision to scale that because I just wasn't getting much time to push that sled or any time really. So pushing, get ready to pick up these dumbbells again, or these kettlebells. Dumbbells probably would have been a little bit easier. Shaking out my arms. If you give this a try, if you're interested in trying this, it 100% becomes a push press workout. That sled is a non-factor. And I'm trying to move through these a little bit quicker now to have less time under tension because I know how fatigued my arms are getting. So I'm like, if I just do them faster, maybe that'll be better. So try to do them a little bit faster. You can see like one of my arms is locking out after the other one, and I have to put them down a whole bunch, breaking it up more than once now, twice, 3 times. Like the wheels started to come off here. But this is like a grunt workout, and I'm really enjoying this stuff because sometimes when you start to fail a little bit, which I haven't yet, still doing those 10 and still got this like seconds to push this sled here before I have to pick up the kettlebells again. It's getting hard to pick them up because it's just like you're getting fatigued. This may be when I decided to scale the reps because I'm like, I've just wasted so much time resting. And there was part of me that debated, do I rest the whole minute and then try to do 10 again? Or do I drop down to sets of 5? That was a hard lockout there. And keep going. Maybe I am still doing 10 here. Okay, I guess I'm still doing 10. This might be the last time I do 10. Yeah, I think it is. I think at the 5-minute mark, I go down to 5s. Because look, we're already like 40 seconds into the minute and I am still pressing these kettlebells. I think I have to pick him up again before I even put him on the sled. But I actually am enjoying stuff like this, like really pushing what I'm capable of doing. Because, push the sled for 2 seconds. A second. There we go. Wow. I think that when I got that 2 seconds of sled push, this is where I debated, what do I do for this next one? Because I barely pushed that sled. I barely recovered from the last time I was push pressing these. And now I have to do it again. So I think I go down to 5s here because I've wasted almost half the minute. But I did debate whether I just rest the whole minute and then do 10s again. I don't know what would have been the best approach, but this is the one I ended up going with because I had to make a last second decision here, and that was my decision. But I do like this sort of stuff where you push yourself to the point where like you don't accomplish what you were hoping to accomplish. You fail a little bit. It's okay to fail a little bit sometimes. Like training is where you want to do your failing. You don't want to fail in a competition, right? You want to find your boundaries and your how far you can go here in training and where you're going to fail so that you can prepare for a competition setting by knowing when you have to break things up. So these were hard. Even the 5s were hard, but it was nice that I was able to do them unbroken. And even though they were hard, did I even do that unbroken? Maybe I could do them unbroken. Came close to it unbroken. But it was nice that I had time to get back to that sled and push it and get some of that part of this workout in, which I wasn't when I was doing the 10s. And even here, so I did 4 and 1. That wasn't a plan. It was just that my arms, like I was barely locking out that 4th one and I needed to put it down. But my arms were done. And the next day after this, my arms were sore. And I'm happy about that. You know, that's the kind of stuff that like, this is where you get better. Sometimes you have to be uncomfortable to get better. So I've been enjoying doing things like this where like it doesn't always go according to plan. And if your workouts don't go according to plan too, I mean, that's okay. You learn something instead. There's different benefits. You don't always have to win. And the win today was learning that I need to get stronger with things like kettlebells and things that are just unilateral strength type stuff and get away from always using the barbell, which is something we've been doing recently or the last couple years in CrossFit. I say recently, but it's been going on since Dave Castro put dumbbells in the open for the first time, which I believe was back in like 2017. So first time he did that, that really changed a lot of people's ways of doing things. Prior to that, we had done a ton of barbell stuff. And now we're doing more things with kettlebells and with dumbbells. And when kettlebells appeared on the equipment list this past year for the open, we all started upping our kettlebell game, trying to punch my arms to make them work. But all of us have added them in more now that we've seen it there because he's given us a hint that these could show up at a later point at semifinals at the games. But also it's a hint that they might be in next year's open. Give everyone a year to prepare to get those things ready so that we can use them next year and everyone can be like, we had enough time to get them. Because sometimes we give people only a couple months, they feel like they didn't have enough time to actually pick them up and get them in time. Now, you saw them on the equipment list in 2023. So definitely fair game for the 2024 Open. And we just have one more set of push presses. This clock might be a little bit off to the one that's on your screen compared to the clock on my phone, but tried to get it as close as I could. So last set, I picked these up a little bit faster than I have been past few sets because I'm like, this is it. Just finish this and then push that sled. Last set of 5. But you can see my arms are just done. Although I think after that first rep, I tried to use my legs a little bit more because I realized you need those legs right now because your arms are done. Your arms are toast. Last sled push, getting those things on the sled and pushing it down. It's kind of cool also to use the sled with, like, to put your equipment on your sled and then push it. I know we saw that in the games last year, 2022 games, And I think it's something that Boz is interested in doing in the future too. So finishing up these last 10 seconds. Also, remember to watch that podcast I did with PRs All Day. It is linked. So if you haven't watched that yet, go check that out after this. That was right there. Oh, good. There. That was so hard. I don't know. My arms on those push presses with a 35-pound dumbbell. So that's for men. 50 pounds would be the equivalent. 53 pounds, 53. That was so hard. My arms were just not able to do it. I ended up the scale halfway through. I went down to 5 push presses to sort of ensure that I got some pushing in. I didn't know if that was what was more important, but I just made the decision midway through because I wasn't moving very fast. I got about 150, maybe 160 feet of length, maybe 155. So I wanted to move the sled a little bit and not just push press. The first round I went unbroken, probably a mistake. You'll hear more about my thoughts in the voiceover, but it was definitely harder than I thought. Stabilizing those kettlebells overhead, 2 of them is hard. I think maybe the handstand walking before this kind of impacted my overhead maybe, or maybe I'm just weak. One or the other. All right, if you enjoyed this, make sure you give the video a like, subscribe. Lots of fun stuff coming up, semifinals, games, all the CrossFit stuff. So I'll see you soon. Bye.